The General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR, has significantly impacted data management practices worldwide, setting stringent guidelines for how organizations collect, store, process, and protect personal data of individuals within the European Union, EU, and European Economic Area, EEA. Here's an overview of its impact on data management. 1. Enhanced Data Protection Standards. GDPR mandates organizations to implement robust data protection measures, including encryption, pseudonymization, and anonymization of personal data. It sets higher standards for data security and accountability, requiring organizations to ensure the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of personal data. 2. Consent requirements. GDPR requires organizations to obtain explicit and informed consent from individuals before collecting or processing their personal data. Consent must be freely given, specific, and unambiguous, and individuals have the right to withdraw consent at any time. 3. Rights of data subjects. GDPR grants data subjects, individuals, enhanced rights over their personal data, including the right to access, rectify, erase, right to be forgotten, restrict processing, and data portability. Organizations must facilitate these rights and respond to data subject requests promptly. 4. Data breach notification obligations. GDPR mandates organizations to notify supervisory authorities and affected individuals of data breaches without undue delay, where feasible, within 72 hours of becoming aware of the breach. This promotes transparency and enables individuals to take necessary precautions. 5. Data protection by design and by default. GDPR advocates for data protection principles to be integrated into the design of systems, processes, and services, data protection by design. It also requires organizations to implement measures that ensure only necessary personal data is processed, data protection by default. 6. Impact on global data transfers. GDPR imposes restrictions on transferring personal data outside the EU, EEA to countries that do not provide an adequate level of data protection. Organizations must use approved safeguards, e.g., standard contractual clauses, binding corporate rules, or rely on specific derogations to facilitate lawful data transfers. 7. Compliance and accountability requirements. Organizations subject to GDPR must demonstrate compliance with its requirements through documentation, conducting data protection impact assessments, DPIAs, for high-risk processing activities, appointing data protection officers, DPOs, in certain cases, and maintaining detailed records of data processing activities. 8. Penalties for non-compliance. GDPR imposes severe penalties for non-compliance, including fines of up to 4% of annual global turnover or 20 million euros, whichever is higher, for serious infringements. This incentivizes organizations to prioritize data protection and adopt stringent compliance measures. 9. Cultural shift towards data privacy. GDPR has catalyzed a cultural shift towards prioritizing data privacy and protection globally. Organizations are increasingly adopting privacy-enhancing technologies and practices to safeguard personal data, enhancing consumer trust and organizational reputation. 10. Global influence and adoption. GDPR's impact extends beyond the EU, EEA, influencing data protection laws and regulations globally. Many countries have updated their data protection laws to align with GDPR principles, indicating its influence on global data management practices. In conclusion, GDPR has fundamentally reshaped data management practices by emphasizing transparency, accountability, and individual rights. It necessitates proactive measures from organizations to ensure compliance, mitigate risks, and uphold data protection standards in an increasingly data-driven and interconnected world.